I think you need a medical mask or like something more.
Even then, they only go down to like 0.3 microns, and the coronavirus is smaller. So I mean, yeah, it can act as a barrier, especially if it's,
Kind of work. The light.
Sorry. Yeah, it's just a delay, man. I tried to speak, and then all of a sudden the virus was speaking. But I mean, what I was trying to say, no, yeah, no, because it's a delay. But what I was trying to say is just like it's a preventive layer, but the thing is, like, most people don't have proper PPE masks. They only have like cloth masks, right? So the cloth mask is only going to prevent so much. Like, you're gonna get sick with it. If somebody's sick with it next to you, you're gonna get it. Like, you're not,
Basically.
Over 80% of people
Okay.
What now?
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
Backfiring. Ember's not gonna come. Alright, she's not. She's coming. Been a while from hearing from her as well.
probably the best topic to start with.
Okay.
Okay, welcome back everyone to this Anonymous Bites Back usual episode on Thursday night. We have a special guest in tonight, Steve from Slow News Day, and we'll be
Hey.
hey, welcome. Guys, if you can hear this, please help to share this around. Most of us are on shadow bans, and we're dealing with heavy censorship. And I think we lost an episode 2 weeks ago because we mentioned the wrong word. And
Words.
yeah, so we depend on you guys to share it around. Help us out with it.
See, there's certain things we can't touch on and say, so we're going to use code words.
Yeah, so and if you have stuff to say to us or have questions to ask, use the chat on YouTube. I'll be at least watching that one. I can't watch the Periscope at the same time because of the whole streaming stuff. But YouTube I'll watch, and I'll just mention everything on air, anything you want to say. So we'll be starting out with the Assange subject. You guys know Steve and Slow News Day on YouTube. I'll put a link into their channel. They have been focusing on the Assange situation and everything surrounding that for a long time, and so it only makes sense that we talk a bit about that. And there is a lot to talk about because we have a first outcome of at least the first part of the case against him on January 4th of next year, which is like 10 days away, I think. So
10 days.
yeah. Hey, so welcome, Steve.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to be here. So we're the district judge Vanessa Baratzer, who we on the Free Assange Vigil have been calling the concierge to the U.S. State Department for a number of months now. We'll read her decision. We will be Action for Assange. When I say we will be in Washington D.C. for this. We've crowdfunded and organized 3 now trips to Washington D.C. The first 2 during the actual trial or hearing, I suppose. They've been pretty successful, and this time our events are sandwiched right in between a Trump event and a sort of progressive or like left liberal force the vote event. We're going to be able to gather people from all over the political spectrum, hopefully at least, and have them join us when we have our events for Julian. This is a critical time for free press globally. I covered the witness testimony portion in September and early October of Julian's hearing as extensively as anyone. We were live streaming it. We were the only people on the planet, y'all, that live streamed coverage of the hearing, and we were doing it based off of the live tweets from the handful of journalists that had access to the cloud video platform, because hardly anyone bit on that. There were only a number of people that even knew anything about Julian's situation who were watching it, again, remotely. And God bless the ones that were, because half of them dropped in on the coverage with us. We were joined frequently during this by Kevin Gostola. And here's the thing, you guys, 10 o'clock in the morning at the Old Bailey in London is 2 o'clock in the morning for me. So I was getting up at about 1:15 in the morning and making coffee, and about the 3rd cup, my mouth would start to work again, and we would do this every single day. That I think we did it for 3 weeks of the hearing. In that hearing, the U.S. government, on behalf of, the prosecution on behalf of the U.S. government, they were the mouthpiece for it, stated that it is not just the publishing of classified materials that the United States government wants global jurisdiction over. It's not just the receiving of classified material that the U.S. government wants global jurisdiction over. Sharing classified information, the U.S. government wants global jurisdiction over. Do you think that it matters whether, I'm sorry, that's the wrong question. Do you think this will be retroactive? Do you think anyone who shared a link with classified material, if the United States gets their way, will be subject to prosecution? Because receiving classified material is going to be an offense that you can be prosecuted under the Espionage Act for. Is the U.S. government, I believe they are craven enough to go after individual private citizens for doing this. But certainly this is one of the things on the table if they successfully extradite Julian Assange.
Okay, you want to answer that, or?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that, on all of your points that you made. And this case is just absolutely ridiculous at every turn. From the conflict of interest between the judges in the beginning of the case to putting Assange in a glass box. It's so ridiculous seeing this case, and I think that they're using Julian as an example. And as you said, they want jurisdiction over leaked information, and they want to kind of kill investigative reporting, in essence. And it doesn't matter whether it's domestic reporting or international reporting. By going after WikiLeaks and Julian Assange, they are signaling that there's a bigger agenda here in silencing all journalists, not just Julian.
Oh, 100%. We're already seeing it happen. Freedom of the Press Foundation reported a week and a half ago, based off of the Global Press Freedom Tracker, attacks on journalists in the U.S. in the last year have increased 1,200%. Right now, Craig Murray is facing charges from a hostile UK government, and in the indictment against Murray, they cited his reporting on Julian Assange. Now, that's not what the official charge is, but it's been brought into the indictment. It was mentioned. The official charge is some ridiculous breadcrumbing shit. BBC4 Radio put out a smear series. Well, it was a giant blowjob to the White Helmets and their founder, James Lemizzier. I don't know. James Lemizzier.
The founders, he fell out of an apartment.
Yeah. But at any rate, in this series, they smeared the hell out of Vanessa Beeley and Eva Bartlett, former UK ambassador to Syria, Peter Ford, and anyone else who has reported on what happens in Syria by talking to Syrians. Super weird.
Did they bring up the fact that the UN, was it this year or last year, they declared that the White Helmets were a terrorist organization and said, I quote, that, or I, not quote, but I, paraphrase, that basically they said that they were involved in organ trafficking, various other different criminal acts. So this is from a UN report. Actually, Lee Camp is one of the first to have reported on it, because even though it was in the UN, it wasn't reported by anybody.
I mean, I honestly don't remember reporting on that. And it seems like something that would fall across my plate. I guess the point, I'm sure the fucking BBC series didn't do that. Are you kidding me? The BBC4 isn't gonna say, oh, and by the way, the United Nations declared the White Helmets a terrorist organization right around the time their founder mysteriously died. That wasn't the narrative they were trying to run with. In the email that they originally sent to Vanessa Beeley, they included this Chloe Hajimadow. Her name is incredibly hard for me to pronounce. She's the segment producer of this BBC4 series, and the quote-unquote journalist behind it. She emails Vanessa Beeley and includes it a open threat. By the way, we've spoken to a lawyer, and you could be prosecution on aiding and abetting terrorists and a couple of other things. Just out in the open. BBC4, state-funded radio, but you'll never see anything on Twitter for that, like they do with Lee Camp. Like they do with the Redacted Tonight Twitter account. Fund is a Russian state-funded media outlet. BBC4 is a state-funded outlet. But a state-funded outlet openly threatening an independent journalist. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's what I've also been saying to about that. It's just strange. The Russian connected outlets do get tagged as state funded, which to me is fair if people really want to know who is paying for whatever. But the same should be done then to US and to UK funded outlet, actually to all the funded outlets. And
Yeah, it's only for Russia. Like, they don't even have Chinese. Like, there's no like.
some, but not many.
I haven't seen it. I've only seen Russia. I haven't seen China. But I mean, like, the fact is that it should be for all. If you're going to be impartial and unbiased, you have to do for all. So every outlet, this is an outlet funded by the U.S. government. I would love to see that. I mean, but they're not impartial about it. They're just doing it to say, oh, well, this can be propaganda, but so can American media be propaganda. You know why? Because there was, in the past, the Operation Mockingbird, under MK Ultra. That's all that they were doing. They were pushing propaganda and trying to sway public opinion back in the 1980s, I want to say.
The Mockingbird's already from the 60s.
The 60s?
Yeah, that's when it started, but I think it was already happening before that, because the US Army and also the British already took control over their media during World War II, right? I mean, it was used against the Nazis.
Well,
It was World War One for us. That's when the Espionage Act and the Sedition Act were passed in 1917. We eventually repealed the Sedition Act because it was just an openly cruel political weapon. But the Espionage Act, for whatever reason, the ability to always clamp down on the quote-unquote free press, stuck around, and now, for the first time ever, it's been weaponized politically against a journalist and publisher. But I mean, that's really when the clampdown on the press with legal backing began for us. Was 1917.
Yeah, well, I know that the investigations happen, I think in the 60s, 70s. Let me just double check that real quick.
For which bit?
Oh, it means the investigations against Mockingbird, I guess.
Oh, so that was the church committee. I mean,
Yeah.
kind of. That's when that
Yeah.
came out. That was 1975, I believe.
I'm just double checking it.
So,
Yeah, see,
the
yeah,
Pentagon
it's
Papers was
1975.
70. The Pentagon Papers was 71. Then the FBI office got raided, and the information about Paperclip and COINTELPRO came out in 72 or 73, and then the church committee happened. Our church commission happened after that. Yeah.
Right.
But man, there was like a 5-year period where people had all of this information about what their government did and what the government secret police were doing in the FBI and the CIA, and everybody went to fucking sleep because Jimmy Carter was like, "Hey yo, or you should put on a sweater," and then Reagan happened. And George H.W. Bush literally walked from the director's office at the CIA into the White House. And we've been living under the CIA and all three branches of government ever since.
You know what's really funny is that people complain about everything that the NSA was doing a few years ago, right? But Operation Shamrock was exactly that, where major telecommunication companies were sharing their traffic with the NSA, and this was in the 1940s.
Yep. There's a fantastic book by a guy named Joel Whitney, and it's called Finks, 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 and it's subtitled "How the CIA Tricked the World's Best Journalists," and it starts off right at the dawn of the CIA in the mid 40s, they're 47, and one of their first acts ever was to start Radio Free Europe and to start co-opting journalists who were of like left-leaning bent politically, and have them put out CIA talking points. It got to the point, it was out of the book, it got to the point to where if there was a socialist conference being organized anywhere in Western Europe, and it wasn't one that they themselves were putting on, they got nervous. And as far as the NSA goes, I mean, you're absolutely right, man. It was a wartime powers ruling, or emergency powers ruling, that I believe that gave them the ability to tap every phone line in America, and it stayed that way. That's never changed. Bulk collection of data and open spying on U.S. citizens is as American as apple pie and baseball and mega churches not paying taxes. No one's going to take a swing at any of that.
I was waiting for AK. He's like the intelligence expert, but
I'm reading here. Hold on.
yeah. Well, like I said, so when you're talking about the control over the media, like you're saying, Steve, it's already been going on since World War One. I didn't know about that. I knew about World War Two, because we had them here, right? I mean, my grandparents told me about that, and they were listening to English radio and whatever, and they were kind of like spreading the contra propaganda, or propaganda against the Nazis, like declaring certain victories already, bringing like hope for the people. And I'm pretty sure that these governments never left after the war. They stayed in their media. They stayed in touch with these media they were in control of. And well, then, yeah, you can say that this was a good thing back then, but during the war. But afterwards, then, yeah, what use does it have? Like, okay. And then you have the whole Mockingbird situation going further. They can control over ABC and all these channels, and I mean there's a big list, and that's what we know of. And then it turns into what we have, and slowly turns into what we have now. Like the big media now are obviously under control, and has it been going on all this time? Yeah, probably it is.
Did you know that modern art was a CIA operation? Largely.
Yeah, no. What do you mean with?
I'll put a link in the chat.
Okay, do that.
That's another thing that I read in the Finks book too. Yeah, Jackson Pollock, relatively mediocre, drunk, well funded by the CIA. It was to combat communist realism in art.
Okay.
Yeah, they did all types of different things like that.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, it was so powerful. I mean, the entire education system in the U.S. was completely compromised too at some point. It probably still is, but I mean, you had the whole Red Scare and the kids in classrooms being taught to like sit under their tables against nuclear weapons, like whole protocols, right? Safety protocols, and like you make a whole generation of kids really scared, like saying like, yeah, the bomb can fall at any moment. You have to sit below your desk, and you'll be safe against a nuclear weapon, right?
Well, yeah, that's like entirely not true.
Yeah.
And the propaganda through TV and film, the Cold War propaganda, my God, is it hysterical, and it's still there. We still have it. There are so many shows that you could watch on like Netflix or Amazon, or they all just reinforce this, communism, socialism, bad. It's the real enemy, and Jack Ryan, I think is. Do you know about this show? It's based off of Tom Clancy books, and the fucking guy from The Office plays the super spy, Jack Ryan. And there's, I think it's
I
a
know
second or
about Jack
third
Ryan. It's
season.
an Amazon show, right? Amazon?
Yeah. And in the third
Yeah, I've heard
season,
about it.
it was right as we were starting our coup in Venezuela. The plot to Jack Ryan was they needed to overthrow Venezuela to bring American-style democracy because they had a brutal dictator.
Well, they tried, yeah.
Oh, and it's still a fantastic failure. The overthrow of Venezuela. Are you guys familiar with the show Fault Lines on Sputnik Radio?
No.
Oh wait, yeah. From I can't remember his name now.
It was Garland Nixon and Lee Stranahan. Yeah.
Lee Stranahan. Yeah.
So Garland Nixon was the Lee's co-host, and he's become a pretty good friend of mine. He went down to Venezuela just a couple of weeks ago as part of the Code Pink delegation to observe the election process there. And I actually need to get him on my show to have him walk me through all of it. But Max Blumenthal reported on a bunch of it. They live tweeted a lot of it. I'm pretty sure he did Caleb Maupin's show and went into the actual process of Venezuelan elections. But it was right after Human Rights Day. I was in December 12th. I went to Denver and Boulder, Colorado to take part in a couple of Assange-related events around International Human Rights Day. On that Saturday, we're in Boulder. It's freezing. It's 17 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not sure what that is Celsius. It was cold. And Garland calls me because I've become independent media's therapist. When I need to work some shit out, they give me a call, and this happens every day. It's freaking hysterical, dude. I don't get it, but it's so fucking funny, and I love it. And he tells me, hey, so I got a lot to talk to you about regarding our trip to Venezuela. But first I need to get this out. He goes, when we were at the airport getting ready to fly home after all of the shit that went down during the election, and apparently an assassination attempt on Nicolas Maduro was discovered and prevented, and they got him to a different polling location instead of the one he was supposed to show up at and get killed at. So they're getting ready to leave. The Code Pink delegation, a number of the people that were part of it were on this flight. The pilot is informed that plane has been denied entry into Colombian or Bolivian airspace. Sorry, I need a light cigarette. Denied entry into Colombian and Bolivian airspace. So he tells me they have to go out to the east, fly out into the Atlantic Ocean and around in order to get all the way back to Mexico City where the plane was supposed to land in the first place. He's like, the entire time we're out over the ocean, I'm looking out the window to see if the missile trail is coming or not. So he's telling me this. He tells me about the assassination attempt. He says while they're at the airport, though, or while they're getting ready to reroute the plane, they had to land, refuel, stock up on fuel, and then take off again to go out around the Atlantic and back over towards Mexico City. They're texting Max Blumenthal and Anya Promenpil, his wife, and also Gray Zone reporter, exactly what's going on with them. They're at a press conference that Nicolas Maduro is giving, so they were able to ask Maduro to comment on it on a internationally live streamed press conference right after he had won the election. Garland is pretty sure that's the only reason their plane didn't get further messed with. And that's just what 12 days ago I got that call. A little less than 2 weeks ago I got the call. So 3.5 weeks ago, all of that happened.
Well, it doesn't surprise me if they try to assassinate Maduro. I mean, it's like the CIA's like modus operandi when it comes to overthrowing a country. First, they install a puppet, and then they assassinate the current leader, and then they push the puppet into government. You know, like it's a plan that they've carried out multiple times throughout history. I think Operation Ajax is one of them, right? Let me just double check.
Yeah, okay. This is what governments like the US.
Yeah, Operation Ajax was the Iranian.
That was Iran.
Yeah. I don't know if he was assassinated or not, though. That's what I'm trying to figure out. There was another one I can't remember off the top of my head. It was Salvador Allende.
Yeah, in Chile in 1973.
Yeah,
that was the first 9/11.
Well,
Was
yeah. It was a setup. It was a setup assassination attempt from kind of inside his own government, and they went after him. Yeah.
Yeah, and installed Augusto Pinochet.
Yep.
Absolutely brutal fascist. Because it was economically advantageous for the U.S. empire. That's how we roll.
Right, and then they gave him a pass later on. Yep.
There's a gentleman named Eric who's 92 years old who shows up every Wednesday and Saturday to stand with the London Assange crew and protest for Julian. And Eric stood a vigil outside of the building where they were keeping Pinochet in the UK, so that he would be able to alert the press when they smuggled him out.
Oh my God!
This dude is an absolute legend.
He is
absolute legend.
And I met him in London too, and I walked with him through the city for a few streets, and also he got a little demotivated at some point with the younger people, and I told him, this is why you are here, right? I mean, you are here to teach these people how to do it, right? And then he was there smiling, and he's over 90 for sure, and he was there every day during the Assange.
he makes my heart happy. It does. He's shown up on a couple of a couple of the Assange vigils because we've been able to get twice now. We've been able to get Allison Mason to beam in on Jitsi from one of their events. So there'll be like a street action going on in the background, and we'll have an interview with a couple of the people who are out there in the middle of the action. It's been really, really fun because there's nothing, to me at least, there aren't too many things that are more fun than being right in the middle of a street action.
Oh, you're right. You're right. And I saw that the crew in London is like they're so diehard. They're every, well, at least not now. They're like at Belmarsh protesting every weekend. I think every Saturday they go there and they show up at the Piccadilly Circus, and sometimes someone gets arrested, but they just keep on going, right? And it's a super active crew.
Oh, that reminds me, I gotta catch up with next week. I gotta catch up with a couple of the activists that were arrested. Jill Everett damn near got her wrist broken by one of the cops.
Yeah, that's how they were with Occupy too. They were very brutal, treating activists like we're like common criminals.
Oh yeah, but with Occupy, like at first they were like very nice to us, and then when the media, like this was like after a month or so, when at least this is in here, right? I mean, I'm not sure how Wall Street was going there. I was too occupied with Amsterdam, but at some point when the media started talking a lot of shit and it started like becoming like less and less big, then it started to get really, really bad. And at the end, they were tearing people away from the square, and they were tearing down tents. And at some point we were like debating with them, like saying like we want at least this amount of tents to stay, and then they were making it less and less, right? They were saying like now it's only 50 tents allowed, now it's only 40 tents allowed, and they were like
Right, well, that's what they were doing. They were doing that to avoid riots. Like that's exactly what they're. When they had people outnumbering them is when they were starting negotiating with us. But then they started. Oh well, we don't really give a fuck if we're hurting people. If we got to clear these streets, we'll do it. That's exactly what happened. I mean, like with New York, I mean, Zuccotti Park was a mess.
I was at Occupy Oakland. It was a fucking shit show.
Oh, the Oakland would be worse. Yeah.
It was nonstop violence.
Oh, we had almost zero violence in Amsterdam, like almost zero. But
that was the first time they broke out sound cannons too.
Yeah, they've used those mostly for like G20 events and what's the other big meeting that they held besides G20? It's
the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, and Bilderberg and all of that. They've used those in the past a lot, but during Occupy they actually brought out the heat cannons, and at one point in time they had the heat ray type of equipment where basically it's like a gigantic. It's hard to fucking explain. It's like a gigantic truck, and it has on the back of it it's like a kind of like a plate, and they aim that plate towards the crowd, and the crowd starts getting hotter. Like your body starts heating up the closer you get to that heat ray. So obviously you're not going to run towards the heat ray to burn. So I mean, like, yeah, it's fucking ridiculous, man. But that's the first time that I've seen them actually bring out the heat rays. They brought those out during Occupy NATO. I remember seeing those on the live stream. I wasn't there, but yeah.
Oh, I do know at some point guys from Wall Street were like messaging me and saying like, they've taken all our equipment from out of the tents, and they were taking everything away. And I was shocked by it because I wasn't used to violent protests at all. I mean, in our country, we didn't really have that. Like, yeah, I've been protesting since I was like 15, and I've never had like a real violent protest in our country. They've always been nice to us in that sense. Never
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it depends. It depends on the country, I guess. Like the U.S. is always the police are always way more violent, and I think that's because the higher echelons of police departments they fly over to Israel to be trained by the Israelis in various different police techniques and stuff like that, and I think that's plays a role in the level of brutality that we see over here in the U.S.
It 100% plays a role in that. We were just talking about this on my live stream earlier. We did a Festivus. If you're not familiar with that, it's a made-up holiday that's an airing of grievances. And it was a ton of fun. But my co-host on Slow News Day, Glory Jones, lives in Los Angeles and is an on-the-ground activist in a number of different issues and reports on this all the time. This is something that we've talked about extensively on the show. You can there's a 100% direct correlation between police tactics, especially when there are crowds and journalists over the last 12 to 15, 20 years. That it was right after September 11th when that partnership program began. AK?
I think the partnership program began in 2004 or 5.
Okay.
Not 100% sure on that, but I think so.
But yeah, I mean the treatment of groups, the tactics used to kettle and disperse, the way that journalists have become just primary targets. I mean, 1,200% increase in assault and attacks and arrests on journalists in a year.
yeah, we've been dealing a lot with Asian provocateurs, right? That's what I did get used to, and that is it has something to do with it too, with the journalism part. I mean, so there were always two aspects of it. You had one, you had the violent people joining you, right? And suddenly we were all peaceful, and then the violent people joined you, and they started to suddenly throw stones at the police, and the police had an excuse to destroy your protest. That was part one of it. But second, they also showed up offering all these things. Like they always said, like, yeah, we have a guy who can print the flyers, and they would show up with a lot of flyers, right? And were very helpful. And then when the event was there, they were the only ones being interviewed by the media. And I was thinking, like, who are these people? They just showed up. Like we were like planning something for weeks or months in advance, and everyone was kind of like familiar with each other, and we all trusted each other. And then like some people show up and they suddenly start helping us, overly active, and then
asking a lot of questions.
Yeah, asking a lot of questions, and always creating some disharmony in the groups and stuff. But at that point, they always failed. But then
you know, it's obvious that they're provocateurs at that point. If they're just fucking asking a whole bunch of questions, trying to get information out of you, and at the same time disrupting your activities, it's obvious that they're paid provocateurs. Come on.
Yeah, but I think the key moment, and then when the event itself was there, all the media showed up, big media, and they were only interviewing these people, and these people were bringing out the message. Like we didn't, they brought an entirely different message that we wanted to give, right? So That's about the journalism part. This is the fake journalism part. They were injecting their fake people into our stuff, and we were all grassroots. We weren't used to that. Like now it would be impossible for them, to be honest. But we weren't used to that by then. And
I guess you weren't aware that they would do something like that, but I mean, they did that shit with Occupy. They had
yeah,
they,
I do.
they had police beating up I'm sorry, they had cops that were dressed as protesters, causing chaos in the crowds and inducing violence, to break up the crowds. It's a tactic, and it's an obvious tactic they used.
Yeah, at the G20, you could recognize them at their shoes. They all were wearing the same police-issued boots. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's when they fucked up. It was like, yeah, you're a protester, but you're wearing police boots? Something's wrong there, buddy.
Yeah, all the same boots too, right?
Were we talking about that, Mark?
Yeah,
The shoes?
Yeah, we talked about that before too. I think it was like when it was on the first time with you guys.
They used to use what was it? They used to use sunglasses or something inconspicuous, but now these morons, these later morons, they now started using boots, and I think I saw one situation where there was some special type of belt or something, and it's that's gonna stand out more than fucking wearing sunglasses on your head or fucking wearing sunglasses
Yeah, but even then, they always wore wraparound Oakleys, and you're absolutely right. A tactical belt is incredibly easy to spot.
but that's what they used to use. They used to use sunglasses and stuff like that, but now they're using these tactical belts and boots because they have to be able to tell their team apart from the protesters as well, and that's how they do it, and it's such a lame way, obvious, it's so obvious that they're provocateur or involved with that with the police, because they're wearing either boots or a special belt. But how they used to do it in the I think it was the 60s, right? With Vietnam protests, that they used to use sunglasses. Like Agent.
Yeah, I know at the WTO in '99 in Seattle, they all had the same fucking baseball hat.
Yeah, they used hats too. Yeah.
I'm actually
But now it's
interested.
hard to tell.
I wanted to ask you that, Smiler, because maybe you know what. Did they do the same stuff at Hong Kong protests, etc.?
Yes, they did. They tried armbands, wristbands, slap bands, different kind of stuff, or some kind of pin on their backs or fanny packs or something like that.
You see, at least that's a little bit smarter than fucking wearing the same boots. Because boots are bigger. I mean, armband, that's small, so...
Yeah,
a little bit smarter. Still dumb, but a little bit
I
smarter.
don't know. I won't say that's any smarter, because those things, wristbands and armbands, those things are entirely unnecessary, and then they're for whatever reason they're wearing it, so it's standing out quite a lot.
Well, I'll give them that it's a little bit smarter than boots, and that's it. Because boots are fucking, boots are huge. That's obvious. That's the you stand in a line with people at a protest. Everybody else is wearing shoes, or maybe some people wearing normal boots, and then all of a sudden, these guys wearing police boots. I mean,
What kind of police boots are you talking about?
they were wearing straight up black police boots in one protest that I saw.
Because I myself would wear black boots to
Yeah.
protest, I would say.
It would be
Ah.
funny.
They're a specific kind.
Right.
Here,
It-
I'm gonna
Look
throw
about
a
that.
I'm gonna throw a link in the chat.
It would be funny if you could find out what boots they were gonna wear and then wear them yourself. It would
To
think
confuse them.
I mean, actually, that's what people do in protests. If they, like, some people would arrive early and some would arrive late, and then the late ones may know what's like the color code or the accessory for the day, and then they would wear those things to just confuse them.
yeah.
That happened.
Some pretty classy boots, though, Steve. I mean, yeah. Yeah. So the police issues Nike boots, Nike SFB Field Tactical boots. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Okay, so but that's okay. So that's the point behind it. They use something to recognize each other, right? And whether it's armbands or special boots, they have something because they want to know who is who and where is everyone standing. And it's in tactics, war zone tactics, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And they want to kind of so they say they want to blend in and remain inconspicuous, but obviously that doesn't really work.
Yeah, and it's even easier to tell from like what they say to people around and their attitude, and they are always like looking around in a suspicious way.
Yeah, they're not very smart.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so the part of their training too is that they're smarter than you. Like
Is it?
it's this weird dynamic that generally they think that anyone who's engaged in criminal behavior is kind of less of a person. Probably certainly anything that they would consider petty crime or small crime, generally will assume that whomever's committing it is as dumb as a bag of hammers.
Yeah, but that depends on what they define as crime. Like, there are a lot of things that were not crime like 5-10 years ago, and then now it's suddenly declared as crime.
That's fair.
Yeah. Like, now even going out to the streets with a few more people and you're rather criminal.
Mm-hmm. They always are trying to criminalize protest here in the United States. Always. And under President Hillary Harris, that's more likely than it would be under President Trump.
And
Yeah.
Well, that Trump and Biden and Harris and Mike Pence, I mean, they're all horrible fucking people in their own special ways.
Yeah, but Kamala Harris has like some history with as like a prosecutor, right? Arresting people
Yeah.
in jail.
Yeah, she does. But I mean, like Trump, it depends on what topic you want to talk about. I mean, like Trump has done a lot of bad shit in his time in office. I mean, for instance, he fully deregulated Wall Street, and most people don't even fucking realize this. But it's like all the regulations that we put in place over the years to protect, Wall Street against, kind of like fraudulent schemes and basically running amok as they did in 2008, constantly borrowing more and more money until pop. Well, all of those regulations were deregulated under Trump.
Yeah, absolutely. And no, I mean Dodd-Frank was largely toothless, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was mostly symbolic. But there were a few like genuine wins for the little guy that wouldn't have happened otherwise.
Well,
what's happened? What's happened is that the casino that is Wall Street was fully opened again, and they've been playing fast and loose with everybody's fucking money again, while at the same time the Federal Reserve is printing like trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. And that's a recipe for absolute disaster for anyone who lives paycheck to paycheck, barely getting by, or even for the people that are like fortunate enough to maybe go on a vacation once every year or two. You know, it's coming back full circle, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have no intention on doing anything other than the most superficial or optical regulatory measures.
Okay.
Well,
in the chat, someone says we're promoting Biden. I just want to say, like, most on this panel are anarchists, and we don't really care about anyone, and they're all.
Wait. Since I took a swing at Trump, let me take a swing at Biden. Okay, ready for the swing?
Oh yeah.
Biden flew on Country Air, which is owned by Paul Trubb, who is a Ponzi scheme guy, and Biden was flying on this flight for about a few years, so for free, obviously. Okay, so Biden's going to come in and he's not going to do shit against Wall Street. It's exactly as Trump didn't do shit against Wall Street, and Trump actually opened up the floodgates. Those are facts, my friend. You can't say, "Oh well, we're defending Biden." I don't give a fuck if it's Biden or Trump. The fact is, they're both horrible people when it comes to various topics, especially Wall Street.
100%. Joe Biden is from Delaware. He's a senator from Delaware, which is basically the Continental Caymans. He has always been in the pockets of banks. He has always been in the pockets of whatever interest will let him through the door. There's video of Joe Biden on the Senate floor from back in, like, way back in the day, saying, I tried to whore myself out to these corporations, and they said, come back when you're 40, son. So I did. You know, I mean, that's the story. The story is how he tried to sell out when he was young and they didn't take him seriously because he didn't have enough pull yet. So as soon as he had enough pull, according to Joe, he was able to successfully sell out. This is a guy who has fucked over the American people at every single opportunity he's had. Joe Biden is covert fascism as opposed to Donald Trump's overt fascism. The difference being, covert fascists can normally get away with more. It takes a Democrat in the White House to pass the most nefarious Republican legislation. It's how the partnership works. It's how NAFTA gets passed. It's how fucking the Crime Prevention Act gets passed and the militarization and explosion of the police state. That's how Glass-Steagall gets repealed, so that you can turn Wall Street.
Wait. Glass-Steagall was repealed because of Trump.
No, Glass-Steagall was repealed in 1999 under Bill Clinton. It was replaced with the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act.
As far as I know, Trump repealed Glass-Steagall in 2017 as soon as he got in office.
No, the only thing you could repeal would be like Dodd-Frank. Unless if they reinstated Glass-Steagall, I don't remember it. But Bill Clinton repealed that in 1999.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Yeah. Okay. So bottom line is, I don't trust any of these politicians. The fact that they are even there and they're all involved with each other. I look from the outside to American politics, and it's no different in Europe, though. I mean, I'm not going to say like it's just America, but they're pushed forward by this same establishment that controls them behind the scenes, and it's all these military, industrial operations behind it, and they're all like, the second Biden gets to power, there will be another war, right? And it's going to fund in.
Oh, it's going to be a bad.
And I'm sorry, you're talking about the 21st Century Glass-Steagall Act of 2017. That was something that Elizabeth Warren had put across.
No,
I haven't looked at it.
I just found it. Obama passed the Glass-Steagall Act. He renewed the Glass-Steagall Act in 2010, and Trump repealed it in 2017.
Okay. I want to look at the renewal. I want to see if it uses the same language. That would be interesting.
I'm just looking at the chat. See if there's any questions. Guys, if you have any questions, just ask it. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
see a lot of comments, but you just ask.
One more time. Look, if anybody is anywhere near the Washington, D.C. area on January 3rd and 4th, Action for Assange will be holding events on the 3rd, which is a Sunday. We will be in front of the British Embassy from noon until about 2. We're going to have at least one event during the evening with some light projection, but we don't have a spot picked out for it yet. The legality of it is like good nebulous. We pulled it off no problem when we were there in September. We projected onto the Department of Justice building. It was awesome. Collateral murder on the front of the DOJ. It was a hell of an image. Yeah, it was fantastic. So we're hoping to be able to do that again. The 4th. So Washington, D.C. is 5 hours behind London. So at 5 a.m., we'll find out what the decision in the extraordinary rendition hearing of Julian Assange is. And I believe we're going to try to go to the embassy and make some noise at 5 a.m. We're also probably going to live stream. We're also probably going to talk to Kevin Gustola or maybe Taylor Hudak, both of whom have cloud video feed access. And then at noon, we are going to be at the Department of Justice building. At 9 o'clock in the morning is the Force the Vote thing at Congress. A bunch of people are... So Jimmy Dore started this campaign to get sitting members of Congress to hold a vote on something that 70% of the country supports. And for some reason, that is either a really good idea or the worst idea since Hitler. And it's caused a lot of energy to be sucked out of the internet. At any rate, because of this, there's going to be a couple of days of protest in Washington, D.C. while we're there. So we have a ton of friends that are part of the independent media landscape, that play in the political sandbox that this event is surrounding. They're going to be there covering this. They're also going to come be a part of our events. We in turn are going to support them because that's what friends do. There are Trump events that are scheduled. Again, we have friends that are playing in that particular sandbox of the independent media landscape. We're going to go support them. They're going to come support us. It's going to be a giant love fest for free speech and hopefully a celebration for Julian Assange instead of a protest. That would be amazing. I am not holding my breath, but oh my God, can you imagine if a rational decision was made? Can you imagine? If somebody went, holy fuck, there is no way that we can try to proceed with this. There's not a shred of legality or truth in this 181-page ramble by the Department of Justice, by the Assistant Attorney General,
Okay,
which they based their entire prosecution off of.
there are three questions actually. I'll do the questions for you first, Steve, because one of these questions is going to bring me into a huge rant. So the question for you is, Steve, ask Steve if they for real need megaphones mailed, so bullhorns mailed.
I believe we have those. I believe that's covered.
Okay. And second,
Waiting for this rant question.
yeah. Okay. Well, this will be a big rant, I think. Okay, I'll do that now. Yeah, because someone asked me, what do you hate the most about politics? Okay, so that is. Okay, okay, well, okay, let me just start with the fact that these politicians, like, for me, I just see them as actors, right? For me, it's all the same thing. No matter what side they're on, they're actors and they're trained from a young age. It's just one big Broadway play. When I look at, okay, for example, American politics, and I see like the Republican Party or the DNC, I see there are like party dissidents, and I see like there are like the core party so-called establishment leaders, but I just see them all playing a role. And I know there are some people here like following people like Tulsi Gabbard or something who sometimes say something that it goes against what the rest of the party wants, but in the end I see them as just playing a dissident role to get more people to vote for that same party, because they don't no longer appeal to most of society that are literally are like so pissed off with politics that they don't even want to vote anymore. So what go ahead.
In summary, what do you hate about politics? The politicians.
All the politicians. I mean, you can just remove the entire political class and change it into direct democracy, whatever. Like, I mean,
well, that's the thing, though. The political class is the public relations firm for the oligarchy.
Exactly, that's it.
Yeah.
They are the PR. That's all they are.
They're the lip man and the
See,
well-heeled lackey.
yeah, and that's the thing. And when I see them all fighting each other over politics, I think like, no, these people are just doing the PR. They're not the people in power. This is not how it is.
It's kabuki theater.
Yeah.
It is. The fight, they're in lockstep with each other on all the issues that matter, and that's the issues that send people off to war or take rights away or improve the lives of CEOs and 0.01 percenters and destroy worker rights, the ability to bargain collectively. In the United States right now, I think we're down to like 11.1% of a unionized workforce. It's not like Congress is making the decisions.
No.
It's not like in many cases they write their own legislation. We just passed a 5,393 page, or tried to, that Trump vetoed. But this COVID relief bill that was almost 5,400 pages that no one in Congress read, but they approved it. No one read it.
It said, I quote, I quote, $600 for people affected by COVID. $600, like that's going to do anything?
No, and okay, and so one like to give one quick summary of politics. I mean, you guys all watch like baseball matches or like the Super Bowl, whatever. So you're cheering for one of the two teams who play against each other on the field, right? And you're on both sides cheering for either way, for either side, and they're like red and blue, right? But you don't understand that the real people in power, they own the league, right? They don't care about these two teams. They own the entire league. That's what they do. And these teams are just playing for you to cheer for, but they don't make a real difference. They play in the league. And
You just had.
so that's it. Go ahead.
So I was just gonna say, and we're the people who run naked on the field.
Yeah, that's pretty much us. Yeah, we just run around there like, but yeah, we're like, but the second you start jumping in that and you start becoming part of that, you're just playing in their arena. They built the arenas, and if you play in their arena, you set the limits for yourself too. You can no longer get out of that. So I'm not playing in that ball game, and
Across the field.
yeah, no.
And look, that's a fantastic analogy because if you're a citizen and you're participating in this, you can either only ever be a spectator or a paid performer.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you choose to participate in it. On Slow News Day, I say it like this in terms of the American political system. If you had a machine, and that machine was designed to kill one every, like out of every 100,000 people, it was designed to kill 999,000. Your solution to fixing this machine that's designed to kill you wouldn't be, let's slap a couple shiny new parts on it every 2 to 4 years. And then it'll work better. Because all you're doing is prolonging the life of a machine that's designed to kill you. So why would you try so hard to keep it running?
Yeah.
And now for government? Because that's what it seems like to me.
I think
One
a
more
better
time?
question would be someone who's paying. I mean, let's use the baseball game analogy, right? The ones who are paying a team to win, right? Usually maybe, let's say, Nike or Adidas, who wants their brand promoted when team wins, right? So in terms of politics, it could be someone who wants a certain bill passed so that they could benefit from it.
Yeah.
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 And that's a bigger problem than the politicians themselves.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I definitely agree with you that that's like literally bribery, and it's legal, and it shouldn't be legal. Like the whole right to lobby was a right given to us, the people, not corporations. And corporations come in and buy out a politician by pushing bills that they lobby in Congress, such as like SOPA, PIPA, CISPA, any of those internet bills. The telecommunication companies, they were all pushing those bills through Congress. So, I mean, like, that's a really good point, what you just said, Virus.
That's what you call it, virus. Yeah. Yeah, so no, that's it. But yeah, I know like that this happens everywhere. By the way, it's not just America. America is a great example of it because it's so visible, and the media has put so much attention on it, and it's so easy to see how fake it is. But they do the same everywhere. I mean, here in The Hague, in my country, we have over 400 lobby groups active, and I know a group of journalists, actually independent journalists in our country. They actually infiltrated the lobby system. They started a fake lobby group, and they started lobbying towards politicians, right? And they started to create fake issues, and they started to lobby for solutions to these fake issues. And there were one or two huge political parties falling for it, and they started to mention it in Parliament without research, right? They just literally copied what these journalists were like pushing, and there was no foundation behind it, nothing. And it was just, this was all broadcasted on our, still somewhat free media. We still have it. Like there's like we have 3 public broadcasting stations, and like over 50 different broadcasters get airtime there, and some of these broadcasters are still somewhat independent. Like we have the old anarchist broadcasting is between them too, and they were doing this, and so we all saw on TV, on our national TV, that the lobby system was corrupted, and that people could create fake issues and influence our political parties. Now we're in a small country. For us, we can't make a difference, right, in that sense. But this happens everywhere, and in the U.S. you have such powerful lobby groups with so much money. They push fake issues and push so much money behind it that politicians do it. And some politicians are.
Do you guys know who the godfather of modern lobbying in the United States is?
Rupert Murdoch.
Roger Stone.
Oh yeah, he's another one.
He's the godfather of modern day lobbying. Yeah. Fucking little weasel.
Yeah, that's a sneaky guy, but he's good at his work too. I mean, yeah. So
I made him run away from a chat. I was on a panel for a show called Union of the Unwanted. It's Sam Tripoli from Tinfoil Hat and Charlie Robinson from Macroaggressions and Ricky Varandas from The Ripple Effect, and a number of other just content creators show up, and there's a guest, and you probably get to ask a question or two. Jason Burmis is a regular. I love that guy. And Roger Stone was the guest. So what I knew that he had an out, and I knew that he had about 15 minutes left. So I jumped in with, hey, you were convicted for lying to the FBI, and part of that was about the nature of your relationship with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, and I in light of the fact that you're likely to get a pardon, don't you think it's time for you to use your personal connection to Donald Trump to, or get a pardon for Julian Assange? And he danced around and around and around, and was like, and I wrote an op-ed. And as soon as he paused for breath, and one of the other panelists jumped in, he bounced from the stream. Just skated.
we should do these more, like these raids on these shows.
One more time?
We should do more of that, just these raids on these existing shows. I mean, they're all on YouTube and things now with chats, and we should just mass raid all of these things. Just jump in everywhere. Just an advice to listeners: you can do that. It's not hard to do. Gather a crew of people and jump on these live stream chats. They're everywhere now. Yeah.
I mean, I think anything you can do. Our Mean Panda, our graphics wonderful person there for Action for Assange. She had to super chat the Young Turks to get to get Hannah Kasparian to comment on the biggest press freedom trial in history,
Yeah.
and she acted like kind of offended by it, dude. My co-host Glory Jones had to super chat Tim Black to get him to talk about it,
The Young
and which
Turks.
he really did. He wouldn't even say Julian's last name
I mean,
on the air in the middle of the live.
the Young Turks is a sad story. I mean, I think Terrence got thrown out there. Even he got thrown out of there. The hell is even going on there? We tried to go with ABB. Terrence tried to cover something they were doing, some big event, and he got thrown out, literally like harassed by these people. So yeah. Go ahead.
Well, the Young Turks is cable news on the internet. That's what they are. That show is like training wheels for neoliberals.
Didn't that guy that Cenk, didn't he like advocate did he say like the Armenian genocide and stuff never happened in the past long ago?
They finally acknowledged the Armenian genocide about 3 years ago. But yeah, and we've been calling him Jink Eunuch for a little bit now, which I find hilarious because I'm a fucking child.
Yeah, well, they are kind of neutered, right? That's what they are. Like, they had an opportunity.
100%.
Go ahead, sorry, it's a lag.
Go on.
Yeah, I know they are neutered. They had an opportunity. I mean, they have such a big platform, and they had a lot of people like from the grassroots and like people who no longer believe in all the mainstream politics and all these things listening. And what do? They fuck it up completely.
A sheepdog for the Democratic Party, and then they get $20 million from a major Clinton donor, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and a guy named Reed Hamilton, who's also an incredibly shady billionaire. TYT is now owned by this hedge fund. Jink is not the president or CEO of Young Turks anymore. They again, man, they're training wheels for neoliberals. People get out of mainstream media because it's clearly bullshit, and especially if they're younger, and they see these platforms that have millions and millions of viewers, and they think like, okay, well, they must know what they're talking about because everybody watches this show, and so they get sucked into this absolute bullshit. Like, I can't tell you how much of a waste quote unquote independent media is to a giant degree, because it's pretend pundits who see a lane where they can milk as many gullible people as they possibly can. And it, go ahead.
No, and they're dangerous, right? Because like at least with channels such as like CNN or Fox or whatever, you can see what kind of positions they have, and it's not really something to be scared about. You can just see, and you know that they're broadcasting the fucked up news, and it's never reliable because they're putting out these establishment narratives. But with these groups like the Young Turks or whatever, they pretend to be alternative and pretend to be dissidents, but they aren't actually.
I realize like it goes back to the whole politics thing, right? So, like Fox is leans more to the right, and like ABC, CBS, NBC, they all lean more to the left, and like it's funny because you see like these multiple different narratives coming out, and it's like pick a narrative that you like to be a part of a political cult essentially, And it's funny because it's no longer just unbiased news; it's now political news. You could be watching something, and it can have like 2 or 3 different stories coming out of the media. Like, depending on where you're getting your information from, is the narrative that you'll believe.
Yeah, and yeah, like I made that example too, like about the sports thing, right? It is all like the sports match, and they're playing all on the same field. But I was also like saying like, the Young Turks, they push people back into like the Democrat Party, I guess, and they do it by playing dissidents, but they, well, what people need to understand is they're like all. Let's see, call it like a McDonald's, for example. Like all these people buying burgers, and they just play like the McSalad, right? They're the McSalad, but they still sell for the same McDonald's, right? And until people start realizing that, it's not going to change. Like you're still buying a McSalad, you're still buying from the same McDonald's, you're funding in the same establishment, and it doesn't matter what you're doing in that sense. Yeah. That's why I advocated. I said it on Twitter too. Like, if you want a real change, you need to create this new grassroots collective party. Like, you need a new grassroots party, and you need to just whether you start from nothing, you just keep pushing it, and you need to unite on that, because otherwise it's not going to change. You need to distance entirely from existing politics, whether it is the progressive or it is the right wing side. It is. There are 1,000 different channels now, but they're all pushing the same thing. It's either like it's anti-Trump or it's anti-Biden, whatever. Like, it's both the same thing. Doesn't matter. Like you have an establishment with 2 major political parties that pretty much have been ruling for like 200 years. It's not going to change if you keep voting for either one. Like, it's what do you expect? They've been in power they're like 2 royal families by now. Like no one is even tearing down anything. You're not tearing down the pillars behind these parties. You don't have to choose either one.
The issue with that, though, here in the U.S., I don't know how it is in Europe, but the issue with it here in the U.S. is only the Republicans and Democrats get to be on the debate stage on television. And the fact that that's even a thing should tell people that we don't live under a democracy. We live under a oligarchy where, we have a tiny choice of who the people in power want us to vote for. But that's not a real true democracy. A real true democracy would allow multiple parties and not just the 2-party system. And, people should be able to have third parties on the debate stage to see what the other person has when it comes to different policies and different views. But the fact that we don't, it should be obvious to people that we don't live in any type of democracy. At least here in the U.S.
Yeah. Okay, but okay, so you have a Libertarian Party and you have a Green Party too, right? But then I see some people promoting like the Green Party, for example. Now, I get it, but what I would do as a Green Party, I would create these collective lawsuits before I got even involved in politics in the US, knowing that what you just said, right? What I would do is I would start a collective lawsuit. All my money would be pushed into that, putting exposure to the fact that we don't have the airtime, we don't have the chances, we don't get the same opportunities as all of them do. There I would put my focus on first to change it. But no, it seems they're playing their role.
Lawsuits would cost a lot of fucking money.
No, you have to collect a lawsuit. You have to try to appeal to the person.
So, Mark, in 1986, a thing called the Fairness Doctrine was repealed. And the Fairness Doctrine said that you had to give equal airtime for each side of an issue. It was and that was largely symbolic too, because the only allowable conversation that you have on, American television is within very narrowly defined parameters, and you can't wander outside of that. Like, you can have conversation about wedge social issues. You can have a conversation about why it's good to bomb brown people, but you can never have an anti-war individual on television. You flat out can't, or it's
Well, I
incredible.
mean, Jesse Ventura was on television, and then he was banned. He was banned.
Mhm.
No. He was on mainstream media before, and then he came out and he said how 9/11 was an inside job, and the Gulf of Tonkin was an inside job. He said a whole bunch of shit. Like, within and Kennedy was assassinated. He said a whole bunch of shit, like, on mainstream TV, and they never let him come back on ever again.
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, he was supposed to go on either NBC or MSNBC, and they paid him $1 million over 3 years to not go on the air, to not do a show.
I didn't know that, but I knew that
He's talked about it on Jimmy Dore's show before.
I know that he had went on and had discussed with Piers Morgan, I think it was, and he went off on him, like, and after that he was never allowed back on TV ever again.
Yeah, yeah, I know. That's what I just see with it. Just real quick. Sorry. That is just that I just think these smaller parties are playing a role. They accepted a role. That's what I really wanted to say. The Libertarians and the Green Party. It seems that they are okay with having their role of being never being in power.
They're absolutely a limited hangout. 100% limited hangout. The Green Party rigged their primary election even worse than the Democrats did. It was blatant and brutal, and they rigged it for Howie Hawkins, who is a man who has the exact same amount of charisma as, like, a used condom on the freeway. And they did it for a power grab and for potentially money, but for the ability to always be in control of the grift that is running a Green Party candidate for president. And you're absolutely right when you talk about them not being allowed on the debate stage. That's baked into the equation. It hasn't happened since Ross Perot. And when Ross Perot got the opportunity to stand on a debate stage with Bill Clinton and oh god, who was it the first time? George Bush.
Yeah, I forgot that even happened, to be honest.
Pardon?
No, I just said I forgot that even happened, to be honest. You're right. Yeah, that did happen.
Twice. It happened in 92 and 96. And every time when they allowed him on there and he spoke, people went, oh my god, there can be something besides Republicans and Democrats? Holy crap, tell me more. Ross Perot got, like 18% or something like that in the 1992 election? Bill Clinton only won the presidency with 38% of the vote.
Yep.
And acted like he had a mandate. But I mean, ever since then, hell no, they're not letting a third party on the debate stage. Absolutely not. What's even worse is ballot access, and the ability to get ballot access in 50 states as a presidential candidate is a huge process. Not to mention, the Democratic Party can just sue to have you thrown off, which they did in the 2020 election.
Who did they sue to get thrown off?
Individual states, their boards of election.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Like 6 or 7 states, they tossed the Green Party.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Seems somewhat criminal, but it's not. But
It absolutely is. This is the same. This is the same organization, mafia, quasi mafia, that in the DNC fraud lawsuit in 2017 argued in court that technically there's no such thing as a Democrat. The DNC is a private corporation that does not have to follow its own rules or bylaws. They're technically under no obligation to hold a free and fair primary. They could go and pick the candidates in smoke-filled back rooms if they wanted to. The primary process is a way to raise funds. Donating to the DNC does not mean that your money will go to any specific candidate, even if you direct that money to go to a candidate. This is shit that came out in court. And people still go, I'm going to go ahead and give them another shot. Because that's all there is. What am I going to do? Vote third party? And that's the same thing as voting for the other guy. And I don't like the other guy. The other guy scares me. And that's the argument every time from the galaxy brains that work as narrative managers for one of the wings of the war party.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And okay, so in the US it is just a few political parties, but okay, so in here it works a little different, but it's also similar. Like we have like 30 political parties competing. The thing is, like, there are like the far left and the far right parties, so to speak, but you have like 2 or 3 huge middle parties, right? And then when all the people start going to like either one on the far left or like on the far right, the middle parties start adopting some of the things from those parties, and they start dragging in everyone again. And so in the end, it's always one of the 2-3 big parties getting in power again, and it never changes. It is always like our government. If you look at the history of who is in control, it's always like one of out of 3 of these parties. 3, 4.
You let the third parties sometimes win a seat in Congress, at least here in the U.S. Sometimes win a seat, But besides that, I mean, you're not getting any further than that.
Okay, but in our system, it is impossible for one political party to rule, right? This is not possible with us. It's never happened in history, except for under Nazi occupation. So, no, because we have 150 seats, they compete for it, and the biggest parties get like 40 seats. So it's always they make an agreement with each other, and the rule is this: the biggest party gets to choose who they want to work with in the government. And they have to get over 75 seats, and that's when they form a government. So they will go sit around in like these back rooms discussing with each other. All the parties go talk to each other, and this big party starts like they have to like collect 2 or 3 parties or 1 or 2 parties if they're big to work with, and in the end they have to form a group that is larger than 75 out of 150. They have the majority. If they can't do that, there won't be a government. So
interesting.
That's pretty much it. So yeah, like say one party has 40 and it needs help from one party with 30 and one party with 10, and they have 80 together, so they can do it. But if they can't find a partner to work with, then there won't be a government. So simple. Yeah, and then they have to when they're done with it, they have to forward the result, and they will get a signature from the king, right, to agree. This is how it works.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's called formation. We have a person called a formateur, and he will sit there and sign it that it is now a formation of parties. And it happened that they were unable to do it, and they had to get 5 parties involved, and sometimes it happens. But the thing is, usually it's 1 or 2 of the huge establishment parties. So in here it is a little different, but it's the same result, because these big establishment parties are exactly like the U.S. Democrat or Republican parties. A little less on the right, I would say, but yeah. We have smaller parties. We have a socialist party. We have a Green Party too. It's pretty big here now, the Green Party. It's called Green Left here. And it is actually a unity of the former squatter party and some socialists who left the Communist Party. Because we used to have a big Communist Party here. The Communist Party was pretty much disbanded on a national level after the Soviet collapse. But a group of them united with squatters and animal rights activists, and they formed the Green Left, which is internationally the Green Party. We have those. Yeah.
I mean, look, I think that the West in general is ran largely by people out of the World Economic Forum and the World Bank and the IMF and some royalty, and the police force for that is the Five Eyes. At least in the Five Eyes nations, we don't have governments that run intelligence agencies so much as we have intelligence agencies that run governments. And until something like that changes, until people who are until you can have elected officials who have a conversation about the fact that the national security state exists, then it's all theater. And I think maybe to a degree you can influence your local government, but you have to completely take it over, and you have to be prepared to go to war with all of the interests that are tied into the ones that already run your town. In my case, in Santa Cruz County, it's developers, real estate developers, tech companies, and the hospitality industry, tourism, and the UC, University of California educational system, where Janet Napolitano, former director of the Department of Homeland Security, is president of the University of California educational system. Like all of our state universities. Janet Napolitano.
Okay.
That makes sense, right?
Hey, did anyone read about... I'm just reading into the chat, right? And Mad Mom is saying, so the ACLU is suing the FBI for breaking encrypted devices. Did anyone read about this?
Yeah, but it's not gonna go, like... What are they gonna argue? They're gonna argue that the FBI broke into terrorist phones and fucking. There was one case where they broke into a pedophile's phone. I mean, like, what are they going to argue against that?
No, but yeah, they're going to say like this has results for all of us again, like saying like you have to ban Tor because there are pedophiles using it. Yeah, but there is also journalists using it, and people in war zones, and they can't leak anymore without Tor. I mean, the WikiLeaks uses it for their drop server, right? So yeah. Now I was saying like, so you break encryption for the criminals, yeah, that's fine, but you break it for everyone, right? We will be fucked too. I think that's what the ACLU will point at. Or
I mean, they were trying to push through this law to completely block encryption, and it was like, well, if you do that, you fucking morons, how the hell are we going to use the internet in a secure way where people aren't having their data fucking stolen by real criminals?
Are you talking about the Earn It Act?
Yeah, it was called Earn It.
Yeah, we railed against that, and it's gonna come back. I might have a different name this time.
Well, I think that William Barr exiting the DOJ is a very positive thing.
The guy who replaced him isn't any better. But I mean, I agree. Les William Barr is always a good thing, but that doesn't mean that he hasn't trained a handful of, the like junior varsity recruits that are ready to step up for the cover-up crew. I mean, the Bill Barr is a monster. He was one of the guys who tried to stop the church committee from ever happening.
Right. Yeah, he stonewalled the church committee. He stonewalled the investigation in BCCI and BNL. He stopped the investigation into Promise Software. He did a lot of shit, man. Like, over the years, he's been the cover-up king.
Dude, he's a disgusting human being, and you're right. I'm glad he's gone. I don't know what the DOJ thinks they can accomplish in the next month, less than a month. But that doesn't mean that they aren't going to try and pull some incredibly nefarious shit. And don't forget that the pre-crime division of the DOJ launches on January 1st of this year, or this coming year. If you didn't know, by the way, the United States is going to have a pre-crime division. Pre-crime is going to be a thing now. In May of 2019, there were 2 mass shootings. I'll say that with some air quotes because it turns out that one was just a jealous brother who shot a couple of people. But they happened in the span of a day, over a weekend. And about 3 weeks prior to that, Bill Barr was speaking, and he said it's going to become necessary for us to utilize the tools that we have of the internet in order to be able to stop a tragic event like, say, multiple mass shootings in the same day. And then 3 weeks later, the mass shootings happened. And then that Monday, Donald Trump came out and said, our law enforcement agencies need the tools to be able to scour the deepest, darkest corners of the internet in order to be able to stop these crimes before they happen. And there began the creation of a sort of pre-crime division where the federal government and local state law enforcement that applies for permission to do it can go and monitor the internet in search of people who may commit crime, may become violent. Like, we're straight on into Minority Report world now.
Yep.
Hey, so and all of these people seem to hate Section 230 so much of the CDA, right? I mean, like they seem obsessed with attacking it from all sides. Like you have the Earn It thing, and now you have both. Okay, and then you have Trump signing Fosta Sesta, and now you have a new thing coming up again, and Biden also wants to remove parts of it.
So Section 230 is about the only thing that legally gives us any sort of protection on the internet anymore. It's the one thing that hasn't gone to the FCC to be regulated, which means deregulate, or in this case, it does mean heavily regulated. The deregulated internet has always been the best internet. A free and open internet is always the best internet. It's criminal that we've the protest movement in the United States is so dead that we didn't have 10 million people in the streets over Sesta Fosta.
Yeah.
It's it's absolutely just criminal that what has happened.
Everybody had their morale killed with Occupy.
That was the goal, wasn't it? I mean, and certainly with Standing Rock, that took the wind out of a lot of people's sails. Since then, the only protests have been sponsored by the Democratic Party.
Yeah, it's sad. It's a sad story. Especially because, yeah, that CDA it might be the most important thing, like, right now. Like, I mean, everything is, like, switching to the internet. Like, media is switching to the internet. So, it becomes crucial now, and now they're stepping in. Now they're doing it.
Well, and that's why the Assange movement is such a critical thing to be a part of right now. It's, I mean, I'm assuming and hoping that everyone who's tuning in is active in the Assange community, because this is the future of internet freedom. This is the future of activism going forward. Activism only works if you're able to communicate what it is you're seeking to change. And a clamped down internet kills online activism largely. Certainly in the more public spaces that you need to get to the most amount of people. It's the future of investigative journalism going forward. That 18th charge, the conspiracy to commit computer intrusion, that criminalizes source protection. I mean, this is obviously you guys know what I do, but I mean, this is the issue upon which all other issues hang. It encompasses so much, and it's just so crucial that there's an international presence that everyone has to stand up and notice. We gotta stop being afraid to get out and speak again.
Yeah, I know, it's very, very simple. I mean, the CDA it says that no one can be held responsible for what another user does, and that is the very basic thing everyone can understand. Like, you can't be held responsible for what another person does online. So at that point, you realize that, okay, so the social media cannot be held responsible for what another person does, so they don't have to actively police you on things, and that is their right to do it, as long as they're neutral and they're not a publisher themselves, right? And so there are plenty of now, like anti social media activists saying like, okay, so the social media networks are censoring certain voices, and that's why CDA 230 needs to be changed. That's not the point of it. If they're neutral, they're protected by it, but the second they start removing certain voices from a platform, they become a publisher that only broadcasts a specific voice. They choose what voice to broadcast, meaning they're a publisher. So they no longer fall under that protection. So CDA 230 doesn't need to be changed or removed at all. You just make sure that the social media outlets who no longer allow all voices unbiased don't fall under that protection. But it is crucial for normal users. I mean, this will change everything. And Fosta Sesta put a first dent in it. That had to do with sex trafficking, right? That's what they said. So you had places like Craigslist and everything, and there were people doing prostitution on it, and it caused some illegal prostitution and sex trafficking, and so Fosta Sesta forced these platforms to be responsible for that. So they had to police and take that stuff out, or they will be held responsible. So that is a first dent into the Section 230 that says no one is responsible. No, these platforms are now responsible in the case of sex trafficking, right? It already sets a legal precedent for other things. And like in the European Union, they did it with what we call ACTA 2. They did it for copyright. And they said, like, for copyrighted issues, we now make an exception. You're responsible as a platform for what your users post as copyrighted material, and if you don't remove it, if you don't censor them, then we will fine you. We will come to you because you are now the copyright infringer. So that's what they do here, and it started around the same time as Fosta Sesta in the U.S. And now you're increasing it for the U.S. for terrorist content or whatever that means.
Yeah, it's what if you read Cypherpunks, it's what Jacob Applebaum called the four horsemen of the infopocalypse, which is child pornography, terrorism, money laundering, and the war on some drugs, you know. But you're so right about so what people don't understand, and what the politicians get wrong on purpose, and what narrative managers in partisan media get wrong on purpose, is that repealing Section 230 gives social media platforms all the power of being publishers without any of the consequences. And that is dangerous. That is dangerously stupid. It can be easily weaponized. Copyright law is kind of baked into part of that too, and they tried to sneak in, and probably will successfully do it with a new version of the COVID relief bill. They tried to criminalize illegal streaming using copyrighted material.
Yeah, what the fuck is that? Why was that in the COVID?
Yeah, I heard about that. Like, why is that related to COVID?
You see, the coronavirus gets sad when copyrighted material gets streamed for free, and so it gets angry, and it infects more people. And if we want to save the planet, we'll criminalize it. I don't fucking know, man. It's ridiculous.
Like, the fact that somebody tried to push that, they should be removed from Congress immediately, right? Whoever.
What, if I stream copyrighted music on Twitch now, I can be imprisoned? Holy shit.
Lindsey Graham! Senator Lindsey Graham tried to tie repealing Section 230 into the COVID relief bill. When they said, okay, we got to scrap it and come back with a relief package for $2,000 a person. When they said that, Lindsey Graham tweeted out like, well, let's just go big then and roll back 230. And what? How in the what does that have to do? And that's never the point. The point is, how much can we sneak in while everyone's panicked, while they're starved, while they're starving for cash, while 19 million people are facing eviction in a week, you know, while people are this desperate, what can you get away with? And what can you get away with in the name of emergency powers? Because emergency powers, once granted, are seldom, if ever, removed. It's never let a good crisis go to waste. It's problem, reaction, solution. You know, I mean, I don't. It doesn't matter what you think about the Rona. It doesn't matter. What has happened is that people have gotten, the same people who were already incredibly rich have gotten incredibly richer. Civil liberties have been removed, and we're marching further towards a complete technocracy.
I don't know. I mean, the fear of COVID and people who are manipulating the people who are afraid of this virus. I mean, I think it's going to turn into some kind of not extremism. I want to say a total
totalitarianism. Holy shit!
Yeah,
I can't say either.
that kind of state where it's based around extreme hygiene, or just too much hygiene, too much mask wearing, too much forcing you to inject a vaccine that could cause a
Oh, don't say the V word! No, you're gonna get us banned.
Sorry.
You can't say the V word, and you already said it.
Oh no.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's going to go into totalitarianism, and I think many people don't even understand what's going on. But people don't, like. It's also difficult to understand the difference between actually freedoms and liberties too, right? There is difference between that. Like the liberties, your civil liberties are those things written down in law that the law says are your liberties. But
cute kittens, cute puppies. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but those are like defined by law, what your government and what your law system has defined as being your liberties. But there's a very big difference between actual freedoms, that we assume are our freedoms or should be our freedoms, right? They're undefined, and so yeah, when we defend our liberties, we defend like the rights defined by those in power, written down by those in power.
What's very interesting is with the V. We saw that the continuity of government program has revealed itself. You know, it's been a so-called conspiracy for years, and the fact that the V was given to all these Congress people first, and it actually slipped out. One of them said it. One of them said that under a continuity of government program, they were given the vaccine. Oh, fuck, I said it myself. God damn it.
Oh.
But anyway, the point being is that they were given it because there was a continuity of government program, or COG. And the COG program also has an unknown military leadership in a mountain that is sealed until COVID is finished. These are facts. This is what came out in the media not too long ago, where they said that they had sealed a whole an elite team of Marines with military leaders that were ready to take over if the government were to fail. Yeah, so it's the COG program. And under the COG program is also the infamous list that I always talk about, Main Core, where they keep a dissidence database of basically all of us.
It's true, and this is stuff that, like, if you watch Last American Vagabond or read Whitney Webb, if you're on board with my show, I mean, this is stuff we've been talking about for a long time, and there's documentation on it going back to Project for a New American Century that you can point to, that we pointed to over the years. And just now, this is a period of accelerationism, and because of that, all of the masks are off on the Predator class. The entire Predator class largely is united in this big final push for absolute control, and they're brazen about it. Absolutely brazen about it. The whole Build Back Better thing, that's a World Economic Forum slogan, and it was Joe Biden's campaign slogan, and it was Justin Trudeau's campaign slogan, and it was one of Boris Johnson's campaign slogan, and it was like 3 or 4 of the different EU presidents' slogans. I mean, it's just it's blatant. It's in your face. When the Great Reset is on the cover of Time magazine, and Time magazine is
you can't speak about that anymore. That's bannable.
Oh, is it? Because I just get I get a little censored for it, but I mean it's
they just started removing channels for talking about it.
You're talking about some like best-selling books on? I mean
for talking about it, which doesn't make sense. It's like it's in your face. It's like, oh, okay, well, here's speeches of them saying it. Oh, but you can now get banned for talking about that? Like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, wow. That's well, I guess you gotta achieve a certain economic threshold before you can talk about it then, huh?
I don't fucking know. I don't understand. Like, they're banning so much shit, right? That it's to the point where people should be like up in arms, but nobody like gives a shit.
I have called for protests at Google headquarters, at YouTube headquarters. I want to go to all of these fucks where they live and work. I haven't got a lot of support on it, but I mean, open invitation. Let's pick some dates and let's show up, and let's at least demand that the monopoly be scattered into the 4 winds.
Yeah,
I'm totally willing.
I think the government's going to do that for you. Facebook looks like it's going to go through that.
Pardon?
They were talking about breaking up Facebook.
And like, I realized that Rockefeller didn't become a billionaire until they broke up Standard Oil. Like, I know what the pitfalls of this are, but something has to be done about the big tech government partnership that is at the forefront of far too many aspects of everybody's life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But here's the thing: it's you're giving the government too much power to break up companies for the lesser power for tech companies, and it's a dangerous road. Giving the government that much power to break up companies, because once they break up one company, they're going to go to the next.
No, I mean, I agree. It's absolutely, I just, something's got to freaking give though. And I don't believe there's a political solution to anything. I don't. I think that real, enduring, lasting change never comes from a place of comfort, and I can't think of a place more comfortable or a dead-eyed, soulless servant to power than Washington, D.C. So it's down to us, and I don't know. I mean, a fantastic way to start is to get on other platforms and encourage people to watch you on those platforms.
Hey, so you're choosing between two evils, right? On one side you have the big tech, and you want to remove it from play, cut it into pieces, which is a great idea. And on the other side, but the other side wants, they don't want government to be able to do that. But what you can also do is, you don't have to increase the government's powers on it, but you can also say, like, in law, human rights have been violated, right? The right to free speech is violated. So you do it by law, and you say, like, these specific rights are being violated, so that's why you're being cut up. Like, it's that easy. So we have actually the people, like civil rights issues.
But that's also still the government stepping in, because the government, like, law is a part of the government. So, like, it's a part of a government body. So, you
I
still
understand
have...
it shouldn't be, though, but it is. I understand that it shouldn't be like in okay, this is ideological, but all old ideological designers of democracies did never intended that. They never intended that to be one thing. It has to be separate bodies.
It should be, but it's not. So the fact is that since law would be what you're using to break up the companies, it's still giving the government that power to break up companies. So, it kind of has to happen with Facebook, I'll tell you that, because they're doing way too much shit. Like, they're now trying to get into healthcare and trying to get people's private health data, and the fact that they have private health data combined with, like, normal, everyday data is just scary.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if we accept that's why I was saying that if you accept that law is exactly the same thing as government, then you can't hold people in government accountable either anymore.
But what these companies need to just stop doing is these tracking cookies that go from one social media site to the next. And they're in partnership for that. All these big companies are. Google, Facebook, Twitter. Every single one is in partnership and YouTube, in partnership for tracking us from one site to the next. And they use that data for giving us advertisements that we'll supposedly like. Like, it's fucking ridiculous, man.
Well, not only that, but most of the CEOs of those companies are all intertwined into the national security apparatus in some way, shape, or form. It's not just tracking us to make us better consumers through targeted advertising. It's also monitoring our movements and keeping track of our associates and the places that we go. And I mean, it can I talk about China's social credit score? And then vaguely
because that's what they're trying to do over here too with Silicon Valley.
I mean, as a way to talk about what's happening here, absolutely yes. And we've got Kamala Harris, who has already said that UBI should be tied to a U.S. dollar, a U.S. cryptocurrency, United States government issued cryptocurrency.
Right. Yeah, they've been trying to pass it through. It's the digital dollar. That's what they're calling it.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, like, before even COVID even hit, they were working on all that shit. I told everybody years ago that China, I think it was 2017, I said that China would have a digital currency in 2018 or 2019, right? It got released in 2020, right? But one of my sources, who's in the Bank of International Settlements, said China has been working on developing this digital currency. I think it was back in 2018 that I first reported on it. I'm pretty sure it was 2018. It wasn't 2017. I think it was 2018, and I said it would be out in the end of 2019. And instead of being out in the end of 2019, it was released in like early 2020. Right? So, I mean, like, I knew that they were also working on a digital dollar. Like, the U.S. is not going to let China get ahead of them in technology like that. You know,
China is using like digital currency, like they print.
Yeah.
So it's like an image of the dollar, basically.
yeah, they're
yeah.
using the digital currency and testing it. It hasn't fully rolled out across China yet. It's
Someone
only
made a fake image already. Made fake image of the dollars already.
yeah.
Well, and they're trying to phase out. They're trying to phase out cash here.
Phase out like physical cash.
Right, and the coronavirus are
It's boosting it
I
because
shouldn't have
people
said
think
that word, but
because
whatever.
they're saying that cash could spread the virus, but it
Well,
actually
Right.
it actually can, right? Yeah.
Right.
Logical, in
Do
a
you
way.
remember the fake coin shortage?
Well, yeah, I don't think that was fake. I don't like. Here's the thing: you got to understand, like, people aren't spending money as they were before as much. Like, people are mostly inside, only go to the grocery store or whatever. And that fact, I mean, things aren't like the stores aren't making a lot of money. They're not making like a lot of change in essence. I mean, like, they're not getting as much change anymore. They're also people are paying with credit cards and debit cards more. So I mean, I don't think it's really that fake. I think it makes sense in many different ways why there would be a shortage in change.
What's that?
Well, it gets it gets one more form of like the lowest form of currency out of the equation. I mean it gets people more used to spending digitally. I'm kind of spitballing here. I mean, there really doesn't have to be anything nefarious about it. I just never experienced a coin shortage. But I live in a little mountain town in California. So, I granted right outside Silicon Valley. But, it's still sort of a tiny little redneck mountain town. Sort of. We got invaded by Silicon Valley NPR liberals about 10 or 15 years ago. But we just had a bunch of wildfires and a bunch of them were leaving.
Well, the
That's
least
a positive, right?
Try to be a good finder.
Okay, but the least thing what we can say is this COVID thing was a great opportunity for them because it was Christine Lagarde, who is the European Central Bank leader right now. She actually said, like, I want to abolish all cash money, and I want a full digital. And there was a lot of protest against it, and she would have never been able to pass it. But now, due to the whole COVID situation, it's going to happen.
Right. Well, there was a European country, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. They just rolled out a digital euro to test. They're testing a digital euro out of nowhere, by the way. But by the way, the European Union, they were just recently saying that they wouldn't have a digital currency for the next 2 years, and then out of nowhere they roll out this test for a digital currency. So that shows you how desperate they are to push for a digital currency. They want to get back ahead of China, because China is way ahead of everybody with this digital currency that they have.
And they want to be able to tie it to a social credit score. The same week or 2 weeks as the Brett Kavanaugh confirmation hearings, there was a different set of Senate hearings going on, and it was Google and a couple of other telecom execs explaining how the social credit score works.
Aside from the digital currency, have you heard about the what's it, health QR code from China?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that kind of ties in with the social credits as well.
Yeah, it does actually. They in regards to what's going on with CV, basically that they require a okay to leave the country.
You need the green QR code to take the train, take the bus, to do everything. It's basically social credit score, but it's based on how, if you're healthy or not. But that health QR code turns red if you don't select the government.
Right.
I'm guessing it's not just your physical health that they're evaluating you on.
Mental health.
In their terms.
See, that's the thing. It can be abused, right? And that's always like they push it in, and they give like the reasons, and some of the reason they give sounds valid, right? We want to stop a virus or whatever, but they're going to use it for other things.
Right. Once it's installed, that's it. It's game over. I said that like when I wrote for Activist Post, and what I wrote, I said that they're going to use this pandemic to install it basically, this pandemic is going to be used as a Trojan horse for installing invasive technology. And Zero Hedge picked that up and ran with it.
Yeah, that's how they created
with me.
Totalitarians.
Right. Yeah.
I said it right, did I?
Yeah, you basically got it. It's a hard word. Especially when I'm tired, I can't say it myself.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, and we know this. I mean, this is verifiable. It's not like they're necessarily being too shy about this.
yeah.
Peter Thiel and Alex Karp from Palantir have made a killing, at least in the Five Eyes countries, on medical technology. Eric Schmidt, who was the CEO of Google, is still on the board of Alphabet, I believe, or just stepped down. Just stepped down because he had to take a position on the National Security Council for AI. But machine learned healthcare is a stated goal of a number of different public-private partnerships through places like Department of Health and Human Services, but also Department of Homeland Security. I mean, this is right where we are. It's a reality. There's nothing remotely conspiratorial about it. I mean, the people involved are downright bragging about it. And gentlemen, I have to bow out. I gotta get here. Well, in about like 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's getting late anyway. But I just wanted to say, like, it's not like it has to be a conspiratorial thing. It's just they could take advantage of a situation and use it as who was the I think it was Roman Emanuel who said, never let a good crisis go to waste. and that's what they're doing. I mean, like,
Yeah, it's a mix of both, right? Sometimes it's all planned, but also there's many opportunists involved, and that's what they also do. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, no, that's okay, but that can you even blame them? Especially like the big investors and stuff. I mean, these people are actually they only want to benefit from everything, right? And they want more power and things. Like I've I had this discussion with these were actually Green Party guys, and this was actually a good point they had on it, and that is like many people believe that there is this a huge conspiracy going on, and the corporations are involved. I'm one of those believers. I believe it is all pre-planned, and an elite is rolling out this big plan for us, but their point was very good too, and they said, yeah, but these corporations, actually, their business is to reduce workers' rights. Their business is to make as much profit as possible. And that is actually their only business. That is what they do, being corporations and wanting to get rich over the backs of all of us. They want to be all billionaires. So what they do is you need to remove workers' rights, make the costs lower, give them less opportunity, make it easier to fire them, right? And reduce some limits in law for
well, how about
corporations.
just replacing the robots? You know,
Yeah, that is
robots. You
Amazon,
only have to pay them a salary one time and pay for the robots. You don't have to pay them every year or every week. You know, you only pay for the robot itself, one cost only.
Yeah, there's Amazon, Tesla, whatever. They're all doing that. But they're saying like that is an effect of super capitalism too. Like I always call it like post-capitalism, right? It's not like the hot dog guy in the street selling hot dogs. It is post-capitalism where a few big corporations took control over the market and the rest got competed out, and they have like 2-3 big ones remaining, and then they start buying themselves power outside of the capitalist market. They start buying into government. It's like making deals with governments to get more influence, to get better real estate and these things, right?
Like Amazon, what Amazon's doing. Amazon went into surveillance and went into deals with police, and you know,
Yeah.
on top of that, Amazon, like the actual retail e-commerce, right? They started buying up shut down malls because all of these malls are shut down because of the virus. So you know they started actually buying up these malls for distribution centers now. That's fucking nuts.
Yeah, okay, and then but look at Iraq, for example. The U.S. Army leaves, Blackwater and these private companies come in to guard the oil rigs for the Americans and to guard like the bases that which are conquered. They're commercial guards being put in. There's these are commercial companies, and
Well, privatized, yeah.
yeah,
Right.
but look, this is not new because if you look at Nigeria, there is Dutch Royal Shell, for example, that controls the oil in Nigeria. It has a private army of 30,000 soldiers in Nigeria. These are all paid so-called security guards for Shell, which is one of the biggest oil companies in the world. But they're an army, literally an army. If you have 30,000 soldiers, there are weapons with weapons. That's an army.
Well, I mean, 30,000. I don't think that's a very large number. I mean, like, I could see what you're saying, but
Well, my dad.
30,000 compared to, like, say, like the U.S. Army or like.
I know it's tiny, but I mean, our national army is only like 60,000 active soldiers, so it's the half.
Really?
Of it's half of our national army, and I know we have a larger army than countries like Sweden. So you're talking about the army the size of a country like Sweden, right? So
Interesting. I didn't know that.
yeah, I mean,
I always thought when I when I hear the word army, right, I always think of like 100,000 plus. I don't like maybe a brigade. I don't even remember. I used to know all the damn terms for it. Like I know a platoon, and then it was brigade, and then there was another one. But anyway,
Okay,
I
like
mean,
a
like,
national defense force. I mean, whatever you call it. I mean, these are countries not actively involved with wars around the world, right? They don't have. They have an army to do like logistics for certain things, to have some self-defense, whatever. Yeah. But
right, no, I get what you're saying. I'm just being picky with words.
yeah, I mean, like, okay, so you have they have 30,000 soldiers, right, on the ground, and you have yeah, and Americans have it with Blackwater and whatever. All these private companies, they got bigger and bigger. They change names all the time, but yeah. So you see this government and commercial huge corporations intertwined with each other. So yeah.
Okay, so I looked it up just to find out what the terms are. Okay, so it's first. It's ranked as a platoon, a brigade, a battalion, and then a division. And it goes up by... Fuck. So, okay, so a platoon starts out at around 60 to 200 soldiers. A brigade is 1,500, 3,200, and then goes from there. So I was just kind of curious what the fuck it was actually called.
Yeah. Okay. So with that's where veterans end up, I guess, and yeah, people want a big money. I mean, I think you earn a lot with companies like Blackwater. Steve, you have to go soon, right? I mean, it must be getting super late.
I do in the next like probably 10 minutes or so, 5-10 minutes, something like that. Yeah.
So okay, so it would be called a corpse, Mark.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
just funny enough. I mean, corpse, haha.
Yeah.
I think it's pronounced core though.
Core.
Yeah, it probably is. I'm too tired, man. Like,
Oh, I'm right there with you, brother. I am.
Hey, is there some other stuff
I
you
had
still
to
need to mention? I mean,
Work for
oh, the China hacks. That's a good important thing to discuss. Okay, so the U.S. has blamed Russia for hacks, but the thing is, China was hacked. Nobody has claimed responsibility for it. Right before the U.S. hacks started happening, and the big hack in China has been a release of all of the CCP members, or the Chinese Communist Party, and everyone within U.S. companies, UK companies, EU companies, all over the place. And basically, it's showing that the CCP has been infiltrating various different corporations around the world for a long time. And there's a huge report on it. It looks to me like it was leaked directly by U.S. intelligence. And if that's the case, these hacks that are happening in the U.S. now are probably not Russia, and they're probably more so China.
or the U.S. itself, right? I mean,
No, man, like these attacks that have been going on, I mean, it just looks like it's China retaliating. I mean, if China has all of their Communist Party members leaked, right? What do you think they're going to do? They're going to attack back. They're not going to just sit back and say, "Oh, the U.S. did this," or "Oh, any other country did this." Like they're going to strike back. And it looks to me like it was the U.S. that did it, just taking a gamble there. But considering the tit for tat that I've been seeing with the U.S. and China for the past couple months, I'm pretty sure it was the U.S. that did it. And in that regards, this is historic. Like, this has never, ever happened before in history where there was a full leak of all the CCP members, and that's very, very damaging to China because they keep secrecy around everyone who's a member of the Communist Party.
And a lot of these CCP people have maybe US or UK passports, so they can move
Right.
off to other countries. So
Yep.
this is very damaging for them since Five Eyes is planning against them, and I think US has banned a lot of the CCP members from going into US because of suspicion, because of fear of espionage or something.
Right.
Like that.
Right, and that fact right there is kind of why I feel that that this was a joint operation by the Five Eyes to go after China, and China is attacking the U.S. and the U.S. is blaming Russia for the attack, and I think that they're blaming Russia in the public, so they don't really. Kind of instigate the public into fear of World War III because it's China, and the
China is mostly retaliating now on Australia, I think, with the coal and stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Because they don't want to go after UK or the US, so they go after Australia instead.
No, I think that they're going after the U.S. and Australia personally.
Absolutely.
I think these big cyber attacks.
They're going in hard on Australia. The cyber attacks are
Well,
more-
you-
yeah.
You remember?
If you ask,
Wait, hold on
if
one
you
second.
ask Caitlin Johnstone. Okay.
Real quick, I just want to say Australia has also had leaks of information coming out about their government, and that's kind of being blamed on China, right? At the same time, or a few months later, I'm sorry, not at the same time. A few months later, we're starting to see these hacks come out in the U.S., and it's targeting big government, right? I think it's China. That's all I got to say about that. I think it's China. And I think that the reason why they're not admitting it is because it would literally be admitting that we're in war with China. And it's not a physical war yet, but I know some information in regards to a kind of like, I'll call it a dry fight that happened near the Philippines off the coast over the summer. I'm pretty sure I said it on this show when I got told about it, but there was basically a military. I want to call it a conflict because it wasn't a conflict. There was no shots fired at each other, at least. It was more so warning shots that were fired by the U.S. and by China along the coast of the Philippines, and that's off the coast of the South Chinese Sea. So
the South Chinese Sea has always been a conflicted area with
Yeah.
China and rest of Asia and US.
right, well, over the summer they shot some shots in the air, not at each other, but in the air they shot some shots off, kind of as warning shots. And China also said when the U.S. tried to do deals with Taiwan that it was risking war with China. Like these are direct words directly out of China. Over the summer, everybody misses it. Everybody's focused on COVID or these wedge issue protests that are going on. And, China came out and said, if the U.S. doesn't stop trying to do its trade deal in Taiwan, they'll be declaring war on China. And the U.S. is still trying to do its deal with Taiwan. And the fact that happened, and then these hacks, makes me think, connecting the dots, right, is that China hacked the U.S. The U.S. retaliated, released the CCP data, and then China hacks the U.S. again. Like, that's the way I see it. Like, but yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting you, Steve.
Oh, it's all right, man. So, Bill Binney, who's the NSA whistleblower and member of Veteran Intelligence Professionals for Sanity, and is an absolute genius, had a different take when I talked to him about it, and he thinks that it's more along the lines of what we found out from Vault 7 about Marble Framework, and that it's a program along those lines that we're using as an excuse to further escalate an ongoing, like, a Cold War, really, that we've been in with China for at least a decade now. That's part of what Trump ramping up the United States military's presence in Africa that Obama started has been all about. We're fighting proxy wars with China there. And the fact that they started that Belt Road Initiative that sent absolute shockwaves through the more nationalist core and the more like good old boy faction that runs the show behind the scenes in DC. And it's also why the CPTPP, which is the bastard child of the Trans-Pacific Partnership, the comprehensive and progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership, doesn't include China.
Okay.
Yeah,
but you could absolutely be right too. I'm just offering a different perspective because it came from a person who I respect their opinion.
I just want to say, like, in regards to that, I would agree that it could be, but it's just so much shit has been going on the past I would say from 2019 it started, and then in 2020 it started ramping up even more. That I think what we're witnessing now is a cyber war between China and the U.S. And all over this summer, I've been keeping tabs of every single time that there was a massive cyber attack, and nobody fucking came out and said anything about it. Like, we've had so many cyber attacks this year, taking out like full networks. Like, I'm talking like telecommunication networks, like cell phone towers, internet ISPs, internet services like Google, YouTube, Amazon AWS. Like, we've had so many cyber attacks this year, taking out all those services at once, that there's no way in hell that's a coincidence. Like,
so at the same time, we've had memos from the Department of Homeland Security that have predicted all of this and said that we are inescapably set to have they call it a quote 9/11 scale type event that will happen on the power grid and on the internet.
Right. Yeah.
But according to the DHS, the culprits are homegrown right-wing terrorists who are somehow also magically working with Iran and also probably China.
Yeah, well, that doesn't make sense, but I mean, that's the thing, like, when it comes to stuff like that, when the DHS comes out and says something like that, like, obviously it's like a big red flag, but there's so much shit that's been going on between the U.S. and China over the past year and a half, like, well, I'd say almost 2 years now. I'd say it's almost 2 years, maybe even 2 years since December. But there's so much shit that's been going on. It's like, it's believable that it's actually a cyber attack against each other. Like, it's not like it's not like it would be, in my opinion at least, it's not like it would be like the U.S. faking an attack, because there's so much shit that's been happening. The Chinese government has warned their people to be prepare for war, like over the summer. That was one of the quotes that they said too as well. Prepare for war, and again,
I
warning.
heard about China warning people to get into prepare for war mode.
Right.
But they said officially was because someone got the COVID again in somewhere in China.
No,
They
this
said-
was,
that's what
this
they
was something
said.
different. This was something different. This was in regards to the moves that were going on with Taiwan and the U.S. The U.S. kind of snuck into Taiwan and was kind of making a trade deal with Taiwan, and China was like basically told them to stop and said that the U.S. was risking war. And then it escalated, and then they flew a plane over Taiwan. Taiwan kind of like said that it was a violation of their airspace.
That
And
always happens. The Chinese airplanes or boats always cross over Taiwanese borders.
Right.
Yeah, but
That
that's because
happens
they
like
both
monthly.
define their borders in different places too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then
South
basically
conflict.
after that, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to finish my thought. And then after the plane flew over Taiwan, and then Taiwan said something about it. The U.S. had another meeting, and then after that, China said prepare for war to its people. And they also had a infiltrator. They claimed was an infiltrator that had infiltrated the Chinese government from Taiwan as well. So yeah, there was a lot of things that were happening over the summer that people missed.
Yeah. So yeah, about that border thing, yeah, China has pretty much like laid claim or on that entire what is it called, the South Chinese Sea by them or something. It's like the entire area is they claimed, and so whenever anyone goes through it, they say like, hey, you're passing through our airspace or to our sea territory. So but denial of service attacks and stuff can be very harmful, but the real harmful things are the APTs, the advanced persistent threats, and you see them more often now too, the long-term hacks, and they're always state actors or nation states doing it. No one else is capable of doing it, at least not at this point anymore. But advanced persistent threats, you have to make lists of that, and you see like the exact timings when these things come out, and be shocked. Yeah, it's always going together with these major international events. Yeah.
Right, and then the recent one that took place was an exploit of a software. I can't remember what it's called right now off the top of my head, but it basically allowed full access into all systems that were running the software.
Yeah, well, you look at for example, the Shadow Brokers hack was a big one into the NSA before, and all the NSA tools started being leaked, and that had like the massive exploits into, for example, Windows, right? And that eventually caused, if I'm correct, also the WannaCry worm and everything, and it caused like massive chaos, and it's due to an NSA hack. So yeah.
Why does the NSA have ransomware called WannaCry? That's all I gotta know.
Well, they technically just had the exploit into Windows, like later as well called
Blue something. I can't remember what it was. Blue.
yeah, later it was called Blue Keep, but there was that one, other one was before it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and yeah, that was abused. Yeah, with a worm automatically using it. We could have expected that because you can actually find the vulnerable systems through like hacker search engines like Shodan. You can already find all the systems vulnerable.
Yeah, we can't. That stop.
Yeah. So a worm can do that too.
We can't teach that on air. Like that remember YouTube bans hacking tutorials now.
Oh yeah, last time we got banned too for that.
No, I think that was because Tyler literally like gave out instructions on how to build something. I'm not gonna say what.
Yeah, whatever.
Something that goes boom. That's all I got to say.
Oh yeah.
You remember that now?
Well then.
Just remind it's not 1998 anymore.
He felt chemicals on live on air. I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Oh my. No, Sleepy Josh has had to reel me in a couple of times. I don't really have a filter, so whatever, it just falls out. I experience every interview and show in a sort of a blackout. If you ask me what we talked about in 10 minutes, I'm gonna be like, I don't fucking know. No idea.
Yeah, it took me a while to train myself into self-censorship too. Like, I saw everyone dropping like on Twitter and social media. Like, I literally like what I post now is like the most hippie shit ever. It's not what I used to do, but we just can't lose these accounts and things. So there's nothing reportable on any of my accounts anymore. So whatever. But you have to train yourself in self-censorship literally to survive in this completely dystopian world. Like, the hell?
Yeah,
That's what I love about Rockford. You're a whole lot more free over on the Rockfin.
To be fair, Periscope has treated us well too.
I'm not allowed to Periscope.
they just killed it. It's Twitter is moving to like Twitter Live or something.
Oh yeah, Periscope is going to end. But Steve, you were saying you have not really experience with Periscope, right? But I've seen it with Periscope. YouTube used to kill episodes, and Periscope kept them on. I literally had to get them from Periscope and save them, our own episodes.
I mean, that's fantastic. But I mean, they haven't let me stream since we got back from DC in February. They haven't let us stream the Free Assange Vigil on anyone's channel that we stream from on Periscope either. That took about another month, but then we couldn't stream on it.
That's fucked up. I mean,
well, I mean, they fucked with all the Assange accounts. I mean, like, I got completely suspended for 2 accounts now. I got locked out of my accounts when I had access to the Unity4J account. Oh my god, dude. My account would get locked out all the fucking time when there was something important going on with Julian. And they also locked out our
ABB is gone. Anonymous Worldwide is gone. So, yeah, everything.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. I was gonna say, the Julian... The no Julian for US Gov account.
Oh, yeah.
They locked us out of that. And,
That's the old Free Laurie Love account, by the way.
Yeah. Yep.
That one was we were all, that one was used for when Laurie was facing extradition, and that one is renamed to No Julian for US because it was No Love for US before.
Right.
Yeah, that was locked out too. I was put on full shadow ban, especially during the London situation. Was fully shadow banned. Like, so all these journalists were posting about it. Like, I had like 70k followers. I could have like pushed hard on this stuff, but they've put me on full shadow ban. And the day I got home, like, or maybe 2-3 days later, I was taken off shadow ban. Everything was working again. Like, yeah, now my tweets get like a few hundred retweets easily. So yeah, but I have to like recover everything.
Yeah, it's an on or off switch for everybody.
They did it when they took Julian from the embassy too, by the way. 13 hours before he was taken from the embassy, my account was put on shadow ban. Because the week before that, I was like rallying people to go into the streets, like yellow vests, to protect him at the embassy, and they were going there. So I was put on. They were like literally from France. They were going to London. I was like kept on rallying, but then 13 hours. I remember it exactly because it was online when it happened. Was put on a full shadow ban. And then
you remember that we were messaging people
yeah.
to try to get them down to go down to the fucking embassy.
Yeah.
Around that time, I mean, we were like all messaging people in our DMs and shit, and I think that was a cause of our accounts getting locked out and suspended, is because we were literally trying to get people down on the ground to prevent that from happening, because we all saw it happening and we had quote unquote tips that it was gonna go down.
Yeah, 2 weeks before it happened, we got tips that it was going to happen. Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, so and they did it, but they did it with Stop Acta too as well. Until like leading up to the vote, and then the day the vote was done, we were all taken off shadow ban. Like they made it so obvious. Like this is just shocking. They just have an on and off button, and they have certain people on a list and whatever. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm on a fucking list. Jesus Christ, man! Like. My account's like fully shadow banned now, but you go to check it on shadowban.eu and it's not. Like, it's so obvious it is because it gets no traction at all anymore.
Yeah. What were you saying, Steve?
I don't know if you guys saw Millie Weaver's Shadowgate documentary, but giant fat bowl of hopium for Donald Trump that it is aside. The actual ShadowNet stuff in it is fascinating, and that's a public-private partnership program.
Well, what she explained, like all that information that she had, right? She took it and spun it in a full biased way for Trump, right?
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
everything that she said was true in regards to the private companies, basically private intelligence services. Private intelligence services, it goes back to Iran-Contra and the whole Iran-Contra kind of shadowy government that they formed. And how Daniel Inouye, who's a congressman in Hawaii, came out and he said that there was a shadowy government with its own air force, its own fundraising mechanism, and fully outside of the law that was operating around that time. And the thing is, what she uncovered and said in that, even though it was fully pro-Donald Trump, it was accurate. It was accurate. They do have these private intelligence firms that they set up, and then they basically use them fully outside of the law.
Yeah, and what's interesting about tying it to Iran-Contra is that over and over, one of the names that kept coming up was General McChrystal. And the McChrystal group is just fucking nefarious. I mean, going back to, what, the mid-90s now? Late 90s? Look, and again, I mean, you're absolutely right. The thing was a gift to Donald Trump, and I think that the Tory was more than a little suspect. But the information itself on ShadowNet and the people connected to it, that's been corroborated in a couple of different spots.
Well, you got to remember, McChrystal was who Hastings was investigating for. I don't know if I should say this. I'll be the next one to end up dead. Anyway, Hastings was investigating McChrystal and his ties into the Afghanistan and I think it was just Afghanistan, actually. I think it was just Afghanistan propaganda operations that were ran on Congress.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then after after he goes out and says that he has something big, he's about to publish it, Hastings ends up in a car accident, speeding, even though he drove like a grandma, and somehow crashes into a tree or a pole. I can't remember which. But, then we find out in the CIA leak by WikiLeaks that hacking a car is possible. And I mean, it was obvious that hacking a fucking car was possible. But, if there is a computer chip inside of a car, it is hackable, it is exploitable. You can tap into it with the right tools. If you have access into a cellular antenna, like a cell tower, right? You would be able to utilize that to hack a car. And there's all sorts of other different ways that you could do it, but we found out that was possible. That's the main point. And McChrystal, yeah, he's a character.
That was incredibly diplomatic. No, gentlemen, I gotta bounce. This has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, me too. I think we had some great conversation. I mean, we could go like a little in depth into some things, and really great show.
There's only one thing we didn't mention that's probably good that we didn't, because then we probably would have gotten fucked and deleted. And that's Epstein.
Oh. Hey.
Yeah, I mean, I could be here for another solid hour on that, but I really do gotta split, so I'm gonna go ahead and hop off. But you guys have a fantastic night.
Hey, 1 second. Is there something you still want to mention, or that is important for you, or?
Oh, I mean, just let me reiterate that if you're anywhere near Washington, D.C. On January 3rd and 4th, Action for Assange is holding some rallies on Sunday, January 3rd. We're in front of the British Embassy. On January 4th, the day the decision in Julian's extraordinary rendition case is read, at noon. Both of these events are at noon. I'm bad at this. I'm sorry. Monday the 4th at noon, we'll be in front of the Department of Justice building. We are going to do some light projection Sunday night, but we haven't determined the location yet. For that, what I would do is go to actionforassange.com/Discord. We're in the Discord, and we will absolutely, day of, certainly, if not day before, let you guys know where we're going to be, and then we'll let it sort of circulate from there. It's more important than ever to stand with Julian Assange and to stand for press freedom. We're headed into dangerous times with what my friend Whitney Webb calls a technocratic panopticon. So we need all hands on deck here. If you're inclined, I have another show called Slow News Day. if you don't have your free Rockfin account yet, you should get it. Rockfin's kind of like a Netflix for content creators, where there is paywalled content. If you pay $10 a month, you get everybody's paywalled content by sponsoring one channel. It's where I'm gonna end up when YouTube yanks my channel, which I am amazed every single day that I wake up and see it. And yeah, just thanks again, guys. I really do appreciate it. It's been fun.
Yeah, we'll do another show later. I mean, you're always welcome anyway. So.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Let me close this out then.
Yeah.
Anonymous PSA, since Alamo's not here. Remember to spay and neuter all politicians and lobbyists.
Oh yeah, lobbyists. We need to add that one too. Yeah. Throw in the bankers too, I guess. Good night, guys. Please share this around.
Oh, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.